In Russian, there are two ways to take verbs and put them in the future tense, meaning I will go to the store or I will read the book. In this video, I'm going to explain the simplest and easiest way to do that. Давайте начнем. Всем привет, меня зовут Jared, я делаю русский язык легким. As I mentioned in the intro, there's two ways to put verbs into the future tense. The easiest way to do that is using the verb быть, which means to be, will, or was if we're using the past tense there. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how to conjugate the verb, how to correctly pair it with other verbs to get it into the future tense, some other miscellaneous uses that you'll hear all the time using this verb to put things into the future tense and in the past tense. And then I've got one little bonus tip for you at the end, how to use this with the instrumental case. Really easy. Okay, so let's start with the verb быть and learn how to conjugate it. It doesn't look like a typical first conjugation verb, meaning it doesn't end in the ativ znak, but it is first conjugation. It's just irregular. But it's a fairly easy conjugation to learn. There are no shifting stresses, so it starts out with я буду, ты будешь, он, она, оно будет, мы будем, вы будете, они будут. Not too hard, but that's how you'll conjugate it. To put verbs into the future tense using быть, it's just a two-step process. The first step is to conjugate быть in regards to the personal pronoun that it's referring to. So let's take, for example, she will read the book. Она будет, and then you add the imperfective and infinitive form of the verb that you're putting into the future tense. So in this case, it's читать. Now, if your head's spinning a little bit there and you don't know what imperfective and infinitive is, don't worry, I didn't either when I was first learning. When we talk about the imperfective form, it's just something you have to learn. All verbs have an imperfective and a perfective form. If you don't really know what that is, don't worry about it right now. Just know that the version that you normally learn, that you memorize out of the dictionary, is the imperfective form. If you know the difference between imperfective and perfective, we want the imperfective form here. And then when I say the infinitive form of the verb, that just means the verb without any conjugation. We're going to take быть, conjugate it according to the personal pronoun that it's referring to, and then take the imperfective and infinitive form of the verb. So let's go back to our sample sentence here. She will read the book. Она будет, we've just taken быть, conjugated it to она, and then читать. You see how we added the infinitive form. We didn't conjugate читать at all, and we took the imperfective form, and we just added it on. She will read, and then if we wanted to say book, it's knigu. And that's because it's in the accusative case. And we're not going to get into the accusative case right now, but that's how that works. Okay, so she will read. Она будет читать. Not too hard. Let's take another example. The verb писать means to write. Написать also means to write. It's the perfective form. So if we wanted to say, I will write, like I will write you a letter, how would we say that? It would be я. We conjugate the быть form, буду, and then we take the infinitive form of the verb, meaning the unconjugated form, and the imperfective form of the verb, писать. So я буду писать. I will write. One more example. I'm going to ask you to do this one, and I'll give you the answer at the end. Let's use the verb ждать, which means to wait. So how would you say, we will wait? We in Russian, мы, I almost said it in Russian instead of English, мы. And then we take быть, conjugated according to the мы form. So мы будем. And then what do we do with the verb to wait? We take the infinitive and the imperfective form ждать. And if we wanted to say we will wait for you, мы будем ждать тебя. And that applies to all verbs. I know the examples that I gave you here were all first conjugation verbs, but it works with any verb, any first or second conjugation verb, so you don't have to worry about that. Pretty easy, right? You take any verb, put быть in front of it, and you just put it into the future tense. Not bad at all. The verb быть has other uses for putting things into the future. It doesn't have to be directly tied to a verb. If we wanted to say everything's going to be okay, we don't really have a verb there. We're not reading, we're not waiting, we're not writing, but everything's going to be okay. Всё, which we know means everything, будет will be хорошо. Всё будет хорошо. Everything's going to be okay. So you see how we just took kind of a random concept, not tied to any one specific verb, but we wanted to throw it into the future? Быть is also used in this case. Let's say that a cake is baking and the little kid comes up and is like, when's the cake going to be ready? And mom's like, it's going to be ready soon. Skoro будет готов. Okay. Again, it's not a full, complete sentence, but it takes kind of an abstract idea, at least that's how I'm describing it in my mind, throws it into the future there. Here's another thing you'll hear a lot too. How sometimes people worry about crazy things, or at least in your mind, they're crazy. Like, why are you worrying about that? That's never going to happen. So in Russian, you would say that такого не будет. That won't happen. There's one other way that they use быть that you'll hear quite a bit, and that is just to use a personal pronoun conjugated with быть. So, я буду. So if someone is reminding you that, you need to clean your room, maybe dad's talking to their son, you need to clean your room. He says, я буду, I will. That's all it means, I will. So I will do whatever the thing is that you're talking about. And even though быть means to be or will, when you take this verb and put it into the past tense, it can actually take things and put them in the past tense. Now, you wouldn't use this with verbs. You wouldn't say, я был читать, I was to read. That doesn't make any sense in Russian. It doesn't even make sense in my mind. It may not make sense to you there too. I'm not sure. Past tense verbs are really easy. I've got another video there. I'll link to that up here if you don't know how to do those. But you can throw other abstract ideas into the past like we did when we were throwing them into the future. So remember how just a few minutes ago we were talking about how we said everything will be okay? Well, if we wanted to say everything was okay, maybe mom heard that there was a car accident or something, you see. Всё было хорошо. Всё было хорошо. Everything was okay. Everything was fine. There's nothing wrong. This is also used if people are asking you, have you ever been to Moscow? Say Moscow, Russia. You say, я был, I was, or I have been there. You'll hear that quite a bit too. The other way that you can use this is if you want to talk about the way things were in the past tense. So maybe, your boss asks you, how was the meeting? And you're like, oh, было скучно. It was really boring. Or было долго. It was long. You see how we're taking an abstract idea, throwing it in the past tense, just like we did with the future tense there. Not a hard concept to learn, but something you should know in regards to the verb быть. Okay, the last little thing that I want to teach you about this verb here, just so that you use it correctly, this is kind of the bonus little tip, if you will, is when you're talking about becoming something, it takes the instrumental case. So if you wanted to say, I am going to be a teacher, я буду учителем. Okay, you see how that I am becoming a teacher or I will be a teacher? Same thing in the past. Maybe I was a teacher and now I'm a policeman. You would say, я был учителем. The verb быть requires the instrumental case. Let me give you an example here. If we wanted to say she was a good doctor, она была хорошим врачом. You see how those two words go into the instrumental case there because she was a good doctor. Not too hard of a concept to understand, but again, you want to know that быть takes the instrumental case when talking about changing into something or becoming something. I want to remind you guys that I put out 2 videos every week. If you're serious about learning Russian, subscribe to this channel. Ну хорошо, тогда это все. Спасибо и увидимся.